body image, one of those struggles that can be confusing and with the culture that we live in today is, what do we do when we have these characteristics that we've developed that cause us to view our body in a way that is not God's design, not the way He wired us? And is there hope for me when I have this distorted body image struggle? And what are some of those characteristics? Today we're going to talk about some of those characteristics and ultimately move us down the road toward health and healing in our life. Welcome to Hope and Recovery, a Fellowship Celebrate Recovery podcast that shares hope and healing for our mental, spiritual, emotional, and relational journey through life-change stories and recovery topics, all centered around the Celebrate Recovery principles based on the Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5, where Jesus helps us to face our hurts, hang-ups, and habits, and even our relational struggles so that we can walk in that newness of life the way Jesus intended in our life and not have to face it alone, that we can walk in freedom, find purpose in our pain. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with drugs and alcohol and perfectionism. My name is Rodney. I'm the ministry leader and pastor of Celebrate Recovery at Fellowship Bible Church in Rogers. And so good to be back with you today. Thanks as always for helping get the word out about this, sharing this podcast with your friends on text or email, social media, but also giving us a 5-star rating and a review if you like what you're hearing to help support us. That's a good way to do that. And we're always looking for ideas that you might have to help us in this space. I'm looking forward to today's topic around body image and how do we, as we did a prior podcast around food issues, the body image struggles is a little bit different. And today we're going to talk about some of those characteristics around body image. This is one of those topics that's, if I'm being honest, I haven't thought a lot of until the last few years, and I'm seeing more and more. And I don't think it's a mistake that, body image, I think there's a direct correlation to just the accessibility to the growing social media aspect, what we're seeing and hearing, and the way what we portray and display on social media. It can be damaging, and I think some body image. It's interesting. Even the most recent thing that I've seen going around, and it's fun. And if you've done it, please don't take this as a shame message, but I will see people using this AI to, make myself look this way, and it'll, put tats all over me or make my hair longer, or my face slender, or younger, or whatever. And it's fascinating. It's a fun little game to play, but I think that kind of thing can even play into this a little bit because we see, and even we'll get compliments on the AI version of ourselves. And whether we realize it or not, sometimes we can start saying, well, if I just look like that, man, that now we're kind of in that body image struggle. But they're just social media in general can be one, because I've seen people. We used to have a couple that was in our ministry, and I remember the wife, she was obsessed with taking photos. If we took photos, you'd have to take it again and again and again. I even remember her daughters having to retake photos at a family function where they're with friends. It's just an obsession with, no, that doesn't look right. Take it again, take it again, take it again. And so body image, social media, what we're putting out on social media, we can become consumed with that. And so I just wanted to kind of go over we'll see how far we get here today, and maybe we'll do a second podcast on this, but some characteristics of someone that might be struggling with body image. I think right out of the gate, a preoccupation with my appearance. That sounds like a Captain Obvious statement, but I'm preoccupied. And now preoccupation, we can start ruminating on a specific thought. And so just think of that as ruminating on what my appearance is, constantly thinking about my physical appearance. And even more so, we're comparing ourselves to others. So, when I look in the mirror, what do I see? Do I like what I see? If I just had a little bit broader shoulders, if my stomach was just a little bit more slender, if I had, my pecs were bigger, whatever, we start getting consumed as we're looking at other people. And here's the cruel thing about this. The enemy uses is he tries to get us to look at other people, and we compare ourselves to other people, and we have different body types. It's like, I will never be able to have a body type like that. But the enemy tries to convince us that, why don't you look like that? You need to work harder. You need to eat less. You need, exercise yourself into the ground, whatever. So this preoccupation with appearance, constantly thinking about my physical appearance and comparing ourselves to others. Now, what makes this tricky is there's nothing wrong with making healthy choices and being fit and exercising. And that's actually good for our heart. It's good for our muscles. We build muscle, and all of those things are healthy. Just like we've talked about on the food discussion, food is important. It's a necessity for our lives, but we can become obsessed and get over, cross that line with food. It's the same way with our image and even exercising and how we look. If I feel overweight, it makes sense. I'm going to take some steps to get in shape because my doctor's telling me you need to lose some weight, right? The doctor told me that recently, by the way. He said, hey, you could stand to lose about 10 pounds. What I heard him say is, Rodney, you're really fat. He didn't say that, but I kind of joke around about that. But he was just telling me you need to lose some weight, especially with your heart issues. Now, it'd be easy to get just so preoccupied and constantly thinking about my physical that it just raises my anxiety, and I have no peace in that space. So that's an indicator. That's a characteristic. You're preoccupied or ruminating on the thought of your appearance, constantly thinking about your physical appearance, and you're comparing yourself to others constantly. So another characteristic that can pop up in this space is a negative self-talk. Now, negative self-talk, you can say, well, I struggle with drugs and alcohol, negative self-talk. This is just one more thing, but it's good to be mindful of. This can be a characteristic tied to this specific struggle with body image struggles. So in this space, it's magnified because we're engaging in kind of this self-critical, negative thoughts about my body. Oftentimes, I'm so fat. Gosh, my arms are so, look at the flab on my arms, look at my, just negative. I'm so ugly kind of thing. That negative self-talk plays into that body image struggle, and it's never good enough. And here's the thing, my wife and I were talking about this. There are some handsome and beautiful, and by the way, this is not just a woman issue. This is a male and female issue. We've had the blessing of, over the years, the last 11 years, interacting with young adults and doing some discipleship through some life-healing choices and, kind of walking through emotional intelligence kind of thing. But it's amazing the growing trend of young adults that we're seeing that are struggling with this. I don't think there's an age assigned to this struggle, by the way, but we've just seen a rise in this, and I think it's connected with social media. But what's interesting is these are beautiful and handsome young women and young men, and yet they look in the mirror and they see they're despised with what they see. So very critical about their body, negative thoughts. and those shame messages, the negative self-talk, is a very ugly and dangerous space. What about a distorted perception? A distorted perception, and this is where we will see ourselves, we'll see our body differently from what it actually looks like. So people close to us may be saying, I think you're beautiful. I think you're handsome. I think you look healthy to me, and I love what I see. But we actually see it differently than what everyone else around us is seeing. And we often in this space will perceive the flaws that others don't see. Look at my, can't you see the way my nose is crooked? Or can't you see how weak my arms look, or how, fat I am, and the people around us are saying, you look amazing, right? I see something different. I see beauty in you, but we have a distorted perception of ourselves. Again, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I want to do something different. I want to get healthy. That's different. That's motivating and moving us forward. The distorted perception can actually be a part of keeping us stuck. And that's just good to be aware of that. But what about in one of those characteristics that we can develop is we stay in this avoidant mindset. So, for example, there's settings where we might, let's say, summertime. We're in the middle of summertime, right? Going to the beach, going to the pool, hanging out and having a barbecue where I might wear shorts or whatever. And I have a distorted view of my calves or my legs, or even, for guys not wearing a shirt, jumping in the pool. I don't like the way I look, so I'm just not going to swim. So we will avoid certain and life-giving behaviors that we might partake in as regular human beings, but because our body may be on display, so to speak, we'll avoid it. And so we avoid those kind of things. We're not going to be in those situations where we have to wear certain types of clothing, or we'll wear the wrong kind of clothing in those settings, long sleeve pants all the time, because I don't want anybody to see my arms. I don't want them to see my legs, whatever, and we're burning up. So we either avoid the location, or we'll avoid what's necessary as far as clothing in that situation. These are all just indicators. And again, if some of these are resonating with you, don't take this as shame. Just take it as information and feedback. Okay, this does happen. This tends to pop up, and so I just want to be aware of that. One thing that I've seen with people that I've worked with, we can kind of develop an obsessive mindset, or you could say an obsessive behavior. And this is where, again, it's so tricky, because all these things are important and they're healthy things. But we can spend excessive amounts of time on our grooming or dieting, as we talked about on the food issue. This is where there's a little bit of crossover, or excessive exercising. I mean, I've met people who will exercise, 3-4 times a day because they got to stay ahead of it, and that can be connected with some body image things. So they're trying to achieve this perceived or ideal body image. And again, don't discount where we're picking up these narratives. We're picking them up from some things that we might be seeing on television, things that we see in magazines, things that we see on social media, where there's the brush and the filters and all that stuff. Many times what we're seeing is not real. And don't forget, they have a different body type sometimes, and it's an unrealistic place to go. So take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation around body image and some of those characteristics that we can be aware of, that we can face in our area of recovery. So stick with me. I'll be right back. Hey, friends, if you're looking for a meeting, we meet every Friday night on Fellowship Fayetteville, Fellowship Rogers. Same schedule, different people, but the same beautiful experience. 6 p.m. Connection Cafe meal, and then 7 o'clock we come into the corporate time together where we hear a testimony or a teaching, great worship. It's where we come to feel better, and then we go into those small groups to get better in our gender-specific groups. Every Friday night, we hope you'll join us. Go to fellowshipcr.org for more information. We hope you'll join us this Friday night. Welcome back. So right before the break, is kind of hitting on that obsessive behavior. Again, nothing wrong with grooming. Please groom. Please make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And exercise is a very healthy thing, by the way, even for our mental health. But if you find you're excessively doing it to achieve the ideal body, and maybe just saying, okay, where am I picking up this definition of what I should look like, and who defines that? It's fascinating when you look at different cultures. If you look at different cultures, in some cultures, they would see beauty in a certain way that if you go into another culture, looks extremely obese or overweight. In some cultures, when you see some of the people that are really, really skinny, and really over excessively doing that, you can go to another culture and they would believe that looks unhealthy to me. And so it's just fascinating how our cultures can kind of mold us into this mindset, this ideal body image. And we just have to make sure that we're leaning into, Lord, what is healthy? And we'll talk about kind of what the health can look like. I'm just trying to give you some indicators that can be something to pay attention to. But we're obsessive in our behavior. Another one is, we've talked about this on a prior podcast, but we're kind of in this place of emotional dysregulation, but I think emotional distress. So we're constantly feeling kind of this feelings of shame or guilt. If I missed, one of my 3 workouts for the day, or if I missed one that I do for the day, I can feel guilty and I can feel shame, and it leads to depression. And it's related to my body image. If I miss one beat of this, everything's going to fall apart, and I'm not gonna. There's no grace in that, right? So we have this place of emotional distress that we want to just be mindful of that can really get us stuck and spin us out in this space. I think one of those big characteristics is we withdraw from social gatherings. Now, we talked about kind of the avoidant behavior and some of those things that we might do otherwise, but just general social withdrawal. We'll pull away from social activities because we're embarrassed, or we're afraid people are going to judge us by the way we look. Here's a little secret for you. People are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. I think people are actually thinking about themselves far more than we realize. But this is one of those things where we'll kind of withdraw from relationships, from social activities, which, by the way, are so critical for our health and our well-being. But those social withdrawal can have a high cost in that. But why do we do that? We're embarrassed. We're embarrassed by what we see in the mirror. And if you see what's in the mirror, you're going to think the same thing. It's not accurate. People, again, back to what I was talking about, that distorted perception. They don't see those flaws that you have been consumed with. But we're embarrassed and we're afraid they're going to judge us for those distorted flaws. And so what do? We withdraw from social gatherings. And man, that's such a cost. It makes sense based on what you're struggling with. But man, what's the cost to yourself in that space? The next one, I think, really bleeds over into the food discussion, but it is one of those characteristics. It can have an impact on my eating habits. So this is where we can kind of get into disordered, you could say, eating behaviors. We'll restrict our diet, binge eating, and then even purging, right? That's where the bridge is there. I struggle with food. I struggle with body image. That's where we might kind of think these are the same thing. There's some similarities there, but this is one of those characteristics. Maybe I have food issues that's connected with body image, but we'll binge eat, we'll purge, restrictive diets, roller coaster diets, and they get us stuck. So that can be an indicator that has an impact, a significant impact on my eating habits. One of those that I've seen, though, is where my weight will fluctuate. We can see and even experience significant changes in weight due to those unhealthy dieting practices, or due to significant stress that I might be carrying. As I was talking about the emotional distress, my weight can either go way up or way down, and when it goes way up, and it's just like this roller coaster that really hits us in a very negative way. So if you see you're having fluctuating weight, that can be an indicator that, hey, maybe there's something wrong that I need to pay attention to. But I think for me, the overall characteristic that can be something to pay attention to or be aware of is our overall self-esteem goes down. So this is connected a little bit to what I was talking about earlier in that emotional distress that we fall into, but we can generally just have this low sense of self-worth and even self-acceptance, and it just puts us in a bad spot. If I don't see myself as having any worth, and I don't accept, I have self-contempt for myself, it can lead me into doing, and this is a lot of times we talk about when we're talking about hurts, hangups, and habits. If my core beliefs are I'm unworthy, I'm unacceptable, kind of that self-esteem taking a few big significant blows, then I will find myself in the habit portion doing things that confirm what I'm believing. So the irony of it, I'm trying to hit this target of this certain weight or this ideal image that maybe I've seen online in movies and TV shows, on social media, whatever. And because I have no self-worth and no self-acceptance in how God created me, then I will go do things that confirm the very thing that I'm believing. So that's a lot, isn't it? That's a lot to kind of just take in. And again, some of you may be hearing some of these things and thinking, that's me. Please don't take that as self-contempt. But just like we tackle any other struggle in our life, pay attention to it. And just like if someone said, hey, did you realize you drink way too much and you don't know how to stop? You can't stop. In the same lens, what am I going to do with this information? Shame can take over in that space, and we don't want it to take us over. We want to take this information and use it as a motivator. As we talk about with emotions, emotions comes from that Latin word motus or motis, M-O-T-I-S, and it literally is defined by moving us to do something different. Through those emotions that you might be feeling, I want to understand, when did I first start believing that this person that I see in the mirror is not enough? And guys, it could be tied to some other trauma in our life. There could be something that happened early in my life. This is the value of doing a spiritual moral inventory that we do through the process of Celebrate Recovery, to identify some of those core beliefs, identify some of those events that may have happened in my life when I first began and I heard the message and began believing that I am unworthy, that I am unacceptable? Is there an event that took place, and it could be an overt event or a covert event? It can be just how somebody responded to me in my pain, when I was struggling, when I was going through trauma. Whatever that is understanding that maybe there's something that happened in my life that's caused havoc in my life that needs my attention. And just like, here's the hope, just like you face everything else, we address it in the exact same way toward healing and growth. So I'm going to stop there with that. On the next episode, I'm going to hit the cost, get a little bit deeper into the cost, and then just even a little bit more specific on that path toward help. Well, I hope this gets the wheels turning. And listen, if there's something that's resonating in your heart, no shame. This is a no shame zone, okay? Shame off me, as we say. Just like any other struggle, let's just address it. Let's hit it head on. And so if there's something resonating, would you invite Jesus in the community and Celebrate Recovery to walk through this season? We would be honored to walk through this, and there is hope. And we know people that have found freedom from this, just like any other hurt, hang-up, or habit. And we hope that you'll choose this path that is Celebrate Recovery, that can be so hope-giving, hopeful, if you'll just trust the process after making the decision to jump in and immerse yourself into this process. Hey, thanks so much for being with me today. I hope it blessed your heart, and I look forward to being with you next week when we'll continue the conversation. All right? God bless you. Have a wonderful week.